of Politics. I'm your host, Darlene Price, and tonight I forgot our little speaker thing, so I'm going to try to speak up, and I'll lose my voice, but I'm going to have help tonight. Anyways, we want to welcome to Truth of Politics. We got some new listeners in Jessamine County. Got some new listeners. So we got some over in Letcher County. We got some new buddies over there, and also in London area. So welcome. If you haven't seen the show before, what we basically do is we try to expose waste, fraud, abuse, corruption, cronyism, and government is pretty much what we do, and we cover a lot of that. And tonight and current events. So we also, before we get started, we want to thank MBR TV. We are a local MBR TV. We want to thank Steve Hall, our hero with MBR TV, that puts us on, and we want to welcome all of our new people and our diehard watchers that have watched the show for 14 years. Thank you so much. And the people behind the scenes, Michael Mann and everybody else behind the scenes that make Truth of Politics happen. Thank you. Okay, so tonight we're going to try to cover a couple of topics. First, we're going to talk about the McCreary County Farmers Market and Expo Center. And we have Larry King's been with us a long time. He was one of the original Truth of Politics people. He comes back and we talk about different things, and we want to welcome Larry King back, and he's primarily going to talk about that, but he's going to help me out with the open records request, KRS statutes, and why that is so important, and we're going to hit that hard tonight. But first, tell us what's new, Larry, with the Farmers Market and McCreary County and Expo Center coming up.
Well, we're pretty excited. We're getting ready to make some major changes. We're still going to be located in behind the Soil Conservation Center till we get moved, and we will be moving here shortly. There'll be an announcement on that. But we're going to be expanding. We'll be the McCreary County Farmers Market and Expo Center. We've been wanting a venue forever to be able to hold everything from county fairs to beauty pageants to live music. So we'll be able to do that in addition to our farmers market. And we're looking for, we will have the space to put in a certified community kitchen, which means if people want to process whatever they want to process to sell, they can do it there, be certified. If you want to do jellies for Kroger's, you can do that. So it's going to be a major expansion, and it's about time McCreary County, we move forward in this area and we get something nice, and this is going to be nice.
Cool.
It's really going to be great.
Cool, and that was done a lot with different grant monies and stuff.
We're in process right now. We have a couple grants applied for. Kentucky Department of Agriculture. We have an Appalachian Regional Commission grant we've applied for. So we'll be, my favorite saying is they're going to spend the money. The money is going to be spent. Let's spend it here. Let's spend it in McCreary County.
Yeah.
Can you give directions for people that don't know where the soil conservation?
Yeah, pretty easy. If you go to the McCreary County High School, you turn right. Exactly where you turn right, turn left. We're right behind the soil conservation. Last few years, we have really grown, and that's great. We have a good selection of vendors. Our farmers and our arts and crafts people, and that continues to expand. Tourism has been a major factor here lately. We have people who stop in from all over the United States. As you might know or might not know, Farmers Market is becoming a part of urban renewal for cities and towns that's trying to renew their area. So we're tying into that. If you go to Somerset, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the Somerset Market downtown, being sponsored by the bank there. Corbin has just put in a really nice facility, and we were one of the last counties in the state of Kentucky to launch a farmers market. So we do have that up and going. We'll be doing things like senior vouchers. We accept senior vouchers. Basically, it's double dollars. It's going to double the amount that you purchase. You can do that through the community action. Sign up for that. WIC. Some folks will be taking SNAP. So there's a whole different variety of programs that make your food dollars go further. Main thing though is it's local food grown by local people. It has to be a county that surrounds McCreary County, and everything's seasonal. No, you're not going to get watermelons in May. That's not going to happen. But everything's going to be fresh. It's going to be, you can talk to the farmer who grew it. We have several organic growers. If you're concerned about, pesticides or, fertilizers, whatever. We have several organic growers you can talk to, and it's really, for some of us, best way I can describe it back in the day. Remember Stearns, the fair, or the carnival? We used to call it the 4th of July. Is the 4th of July coming to town? Well, actually, we're trying to say is the carnival coming to town, but we all call it the 4th of July. Everybody got together and talked and visited, and that's what we're seeing at the market. And that's something I'm really pushing for. I'm really glad to see is community members coming in, visiting with one another, talking to our farmers. And we're on Facebook, by the way. If you want to find out what we're going to have, we post Fridays. Usually we will post what the farmers are going to have. So if you want to see if there's going to be a certain type of tomato or what we're going to have, it'll be posted on our Facebook page Fridays. And
so it'll be Saturday and Sunday, or just Saturday?
It's going to be Saturday right now. Looking when we get moved, we'll be looking at hours. Right now we're running from 9 to 1. That seems to work the best on Saturdays. But as things change around, we may be looking at those hours. We're encouraging anybody that's growing, if you are out there farming, you're out there growing, please come to the market, sign up. And, there's big demand for produce with the tariffs getting ready to go into place. There's even going to be a bigger demand for produce. So I always tell folks the early bird gets the tomatoes, because a lot of times if you're coming there at 12:45, don't expect a whole lot of selection. We have people who definitely there when the gates open in the morning. So the earlier you're there, the better. I think if you're on Facebook and you see a vendor and you see something that you want, if you'll contact that vendor or contact our market manager, they will set stuff aside for you. They'll hold it till at least noon, but after that, they're going to let it go if you don't show up. But if you want something held, just contact the vendor there at the market, and they'll set that back for you.
Cool. All right, we're excited about that.
Yeah, the Expo Center is going to be great. Like I say, we've needed a venue in the county forever, so that's going to be a good addition. And we're going to hope it's going to help pay for the market and the facility and the building.
And is it going to be indoor and outdoor, or all indoor?
The plan, well, right now we're at the end of the equipment pavilion there for the soil conservation. But when we get moved, we'll have our own pavilion attached to the side of the building. That will be the farmer's market. Then the main building itself will be where the Expo Center will be. Then on the other side of that is where the community kitchen will be. Certified community kitchen. We're also looking at maybe trying to do a concessions stand. We'll be able to do concessions for the events and concessions on the outside there in Stearns. So, we got some pretty big plans. I don't know if it's going to happen all at once. It's kind of one grant at a time, and we are starting like Somerset did. Most all markets, we're starting to look for sponsors. We're going to start going and talking to folks, help sponsor the market, help sponsor a farmer. Because as you guys know, fertilizer's gone up, seeds have gone up. I got a handful of seeds, was like $90 the other day I got ordered. I mean, just a handful of packs of seeds. So nothing's free, plus your labor. And as I say, farming's like gambling. Everything's against you, bugs, weather. It's always something.
We got bugs here. Oh
so,
my gosh.
it's always something. But, we have really good produce. We have really good vendors. Some of the crafts people there are just phenomenal. I mean, just phenomenal.
So you have crafts there also?
Yes, we have crafts there. And we have everything from door wreaths to jewelry. I mean, there's some great vendors that come in there and sell. But like I said, it's really a good place to drop in and just talk, visit with people, sit down. We see people, greeting each other all the time. Well, I haven't seen you in, a year. And that's good, because that's that community element that we need.
What is the cost for a vendor to set up, and how much space do they get?
It's a table. Usually you can rent tables, and it varies by age. I think the max is $40, which we're the cheapest market in the state of Kentucky. And then it's like 50% if you're 65 or older. It's like 20, I think. If you're under 18, I think that's 20 also. But yes, if you can look on our Facebook page, we'll have all the rules and regulation. And again, we differ from a roadside stand because it's not shipped in. You're not getting stuff that the vendor has no idea where it came from. So that's a good part of it. We do have, Kentucky has some rules and regulations on markets, so we're just not doing anything, that's not within the regulations of the market. So when you come there, we get inspected. We have inspectors come by every so often, make sure that, we're doing everything accordingly. So it's just a really, really fun place to come to. And we're going to expand. We're going to try to do things for children. We're going to try to do downtown events. So we're really going to try to broaden that out. And be definitely a community farmers market.
Cool. And speaking of downtown events, you guys need to come and set up a booth at, I'm going to hit this right now, perfect segue here. The McCreary County Tourism is going to do the Motors on Main Street again this year. And the first one is Friday, May 2nd. We're going to have a lot, weather permitting. Our band, Austin's Basement, is going to play. We're going to have Rockin' Rodney, the amazing DJ there. Now, we plan on playing on the courthouse steps like we always do, because it's like a natural amphitheater.
Right.
It works real good. Now, if it is storming Friday night, and it's storming and wind and everything, we can't risk, $100,000 worth of equipment for a storm. So hopefully it'll be good weather like we did. We played at the last one. I think it was in October. The last one. We're gonna open it up this one. But it's gonna be all old cars and vendors there and new cars, and it's really cool. I thought the one we did in October was amazing. And it was a lot of fun. Everybody had a lot of fun. Some good vendors, some good music, and we play what I call real music. We play Eagles, Rolling Stones, Bob Seger, that kind of stuff. And Rockin' Rodney does a really good job. When we take a break, Rockin' Rodney takes over. He is a really good DJ and plays a lot of good music.
And we'll be opening the first weekend in May. So, you'll be looking at, once again, we're seasonal. You're not going to get watermelons in May. So you're going to be seeing a lot of, salad greens, that sort of thing come in. We do have a lot of folks now that we've really helped folks and pushed. We got a lot of high tunnels now in the county, and we got more coming on, which allows you to start the season earlier and finish. We have a lot of folks that we've helped get grants from Kentucky State University, which helps, farm projects. If you want to put a water system in, or you want to expand your operation some way or another, then we've helped folks with that, get their grants in, and we've been awarded quite a few grants for our farmers.
Cool.
So if you join the market, it's more than just selling. We really work with you to expand your operation and really help you tap into those resources out there. And there are resources out there, and we try to stay on top of that. So I think we can really help you if you're wanting to get into, into selling at the farmer's market.
Is there a contact number, or they just go through Facebook?
Just go through Facebook right now, probably be the easiest thing to do. We are looking, I think this year, bakers, always baked goods go really, really, really well. So we got.
I guess first thing in the morning, coffee.
Baked
coffee
goods
and
go
donuts.
real good, and you have to, and we'll help you. You have to go online. You have to fill out some paperwork through the Kentucky Agriculture Department and the Health Department. Make sure that you're up to where you're supposed to be on your cells and your operation. But we can walk you through that. That's no problem. But baked goods is a big area. Hopefully see it expand this year. So anybody interested in that, just contact us through Facebook page, McCreary County Farmers Market, and we can help you. We can help you with all of it, get you set up, get you going.
Also, vendors, if you want to set up for the Motors on Main Street, that's the first Friday in May, May 2nd. Contact the McCreary Tourism has a Facebook page. Go through Facebook, contact McCreary Tourism, and they'll get you set up. The Motors on Main Street, everything's free except for if the vendor's selling something. The music's free, the cars, looking at the cars and everything's free. I think they're giving out some awards or something too. You'll have to go through tourism for that. But anyway, we got a lot of the really cool stuff going on in McCreary County.
And for like your venue for like your bands, when we get the Expo Center.
That's
Part
what I
of
was
it
thinking
done.
about.
It's really going to be great for doing concerts, and we really need a place like that in the county. So
We do.
That's going to be a real great addition for the county.
Every year the fair, McCreary County Fair, asks our band to come and play.
Yeah.
And my next question is, do you have a covered stage? Because
Right.
no band is going to risk thousands and thousands of dollars worth of amplifiers and everything else. We got a guy that his bass guitar was like, what, $6,000 for one guitar, and you're just not gonna risk that to weather. You can't risk that kind of stuff to weather. So.
One of the good things that we're going to do too is when the market is not, we're not using the market, we're going to be able to rent that space out. We're going to make it very nice so that if you want to rent it out for a wedding reception or something, that would be great. I've also designed quite a few 30 amp outlets on the outsides of food trucks. If you're on a food truck, we'll be able to come in and plug in, because sometimes, they run a generator, sometimes they want to plug in. So we are looking for food trucks to kind of add to the mix at the market. So
that would be cool.
It's going to be nice. I mean, it's really, really going to be a good addition for the county and our farmers.
All right, sounds great. All right, let's get on to another topic, open records request, the Open Records Act. Okay, folks, people who have been following this show for 14 years know what we have accomplished with this show. And one of the number one ways we're able to accomplish exposing the type of thing that we're able to expose. A good example, for those of you who don't know, you need to go on YouTube and query Lake Cumberland, what really lies beneath, because one of the biggest things we exposed was the mayor of Somerset bringing in just over between 60 and 70 million gallons. We don't know for sure, but for sure over 60 million gallons of toxic waste from 4 different landfills, 2 of them out of the state, and ran it through a defective wastewater treatment plant right into Lake Cumberland and then into the Cumberland River. Okay, we got it stopped, but one of the ways we knew about this, one of the ways we were able to prove this and get it stopped and have the whole community show up, because you all did, you folks from Pulaski County watching this tonight, thank you again for doing that. We had packed house, standing room only, for a couple of different city council meetings, and some very brave city councilmen who stood up against this. They know who they are, and then some real clowns that went along. you got those guys know who they are too. But anyways, we got it shut down. That was because I was able to get records from the state water district, from the state EPA, from the city. They were forced to turn over records, and we proved that this was happening. We proved that it was an effective wastewater treatment plant. That would have never happened if we didn't have what's called the Open Records Act here in Kentucky. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit what that is. And it's important. In 1976, the General Assembly, that's your state legislatures right here in Kentucky. I refer to them as Frankfurt all the time, because half the time I'm pissed off at them and I think they do a crap job, okay? So I'm going to be blatantly honest. The General Assembly, the clowns in Frankfurt, well, these are the good ones that enacted this. Open Records Act of KRS 61.870 to KRS 61.884, which establishes the right of access to public records. The General Assembly recognized, this is back in 76, that free and open examination of the public records is in the public interest. All public records, whether they are stored in a computer or on paper, must be open for inspection unless the records are examined by one or more of the 14 exemptions found in the Act. And exemptions means like you can't release people's social security numbers and dates of birth, which nobody cares. People like me don't ask for, don't want, and don't care about. You may inspect any non-exempt public record regardless of your identity, and you may seek enforcement of the Act if you are denied, and that enforcement is through the Attorney General's office. Now, this is so important, folks. What's been happening is your current legislature, your current General Assembly has, most of them, and I do mean most of them, have tried, I think they're on their 4th or 5th bill, trying to chip away at the Open Records Act and trying to limit transparency. Luckily, a lot of these have not passed, or our state, thank God, our state Supreme Court has overturned some of this stuff, so, or the Court of Appeals. So, but recently they got one passed, and this one is House Bill 520. Let me read what House Bill, oops, I just made a mess here. House Bill 520 recently passed without the governor's signature. One of the few things that I agree with this governor about is he did not sign this because he was against it, and rightfully so. This bill, which passed the House with a 78-20 vote. So all you Republicans out there say, we're for transparency. We love Donald Trump because he's exposing these records. That's one of the things I do like about Donald Trump is he's exposing all these records and he's declassifying, which he should. But guess what? What Trump's doing at the federal level ain't happening here at the state level. They're trying real hard to stop that. So with a 78-20 vote, 78 people voting for this bill, which limits, again, puts restraints on this is a House bill, on the open records act. It aims to change the language regarding for the release of records that, and they put in quotes, that would harm investigations and could pose an articulable risk, and amend CARA 61-878 relating to open records, okay, for law enforcement records that shall be exempt from the public inspection. All right, I got a real problem with this. And I know people are going to say, well, you're just not pro-law enforcement. No, I'm very pro-law enforcement. For those of you who don't know, I was in law enforcement for 20 years, okay? I got family members in law enforcement. Back the blue does not mean circle the rat wagons, okay? When you start limiting transparency, especially in law enforcement, that's a dangerous thing, okay? I did a whole series of shows, and it's going to be both the lake and the missing evidence out of Pulaski County, and 2 evidence rooms, not 1, 2 evidence rooms, is going to be really talked about a lot in my upcoming book. I got a book coming out hopefully within 2 months. It's called While No One's Watching. One of the things we expose is the fact that in Kentucky there are no real regulations or rules that evidence rooms in Kentucky have to be inspected by anyone. I mean, the one in Pulaski County, 6 years, no inspection, and they were allowed to inspect themselves. I mean, that's ludicrous. That's dangerous. These are evidence rooms where DNA evidence, important evidence that puts people in prison or can prove them and the innocent is in these evidence rooms. And what we found out was it wasn't just Pulaski County's evidence room, the sheriff's department, the city, he had a captain up there that was convicted who was able to, after he retired, was able to come and go from that evidence room and take pills out and a gun and everything else. I mean, and just with no inspection. It was a miracle he got caught and prosecuted. What we also found out is the other evidence rooms. Now, how we found this out was through the open records request, the open records laws, or I would have never gotten this information to back up the confidential source information that I got. Now, what concerns me is, in that investigation on the Pulaski County evidence room, KSP investigated that. For 2 years, they slow-walked, and yes, I'm real comfortable saying that, slow-walked that investigation. And there's a lot of suspicion as to why that was. People running for sheriff. At the time that this evidence went missing, the sheriff at that time was a KSP captain. So the appearance was, hey, is this some good old boy stuff? KSP covering for their good old boy, okay? Slow walking an investigation. They used the excuse, well, it's still an open investigation, which I'm telling you, they use this crap all the time. They're doing it in London right now, and a bunch of London cops ran in on a warrant at night, didn't verify the address, and basically executed an innocent man. Okay, well, that was in December. Okay, well, here we are, and KSP is still investigating. And there's a lot of other stuff going on. And kudos to Crime with Bobby. If you guys want to follow this, there's a guy, he's got a blogger, he's got a Facebook page called Crime with Bobby. Bobby Ellison, he's doing an excellent job over there. And he depends. The reason he is able to expose this stuff is the same reason I am. Also, in Fletcher County, we've got the sheriff shooting the judge. We've got Hillbilly News, Allison over there doing a great job. She's doing a great job over there. She's doing pretty much what Truth to Politics does. She's just a single mom out there trying to expose waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption in that county and putting herself at risk. Her bread and butter, just like my bread and butter for any investigative reporter, is the open records request. And my concern is this wording would harm an investigation, articulable risk. Well, how long do they get to convince and stall, an investigation from an investigative reporter standpoint into this stuff? Here you go. You could just slow walk that forever, like KSP did on the evidence rooms. Go ahead, Michael.
And who determines that?
Yeah, who determines that? Good question. Do they get to determine that themselves? Does the judge determine it? This is real concerning. People know me, know good cops love what we do because good cops hate corruption. They hate cronyism. They hate this stuff. Where do you think I get most of my information from? From the good cops. Okay? So I do back the blue. But this kind of stuff to me is dangerous. It's just dangerous because in your legislature, you guys need to be holding your legislature accountable. You need to find out who's your state rep, who's your state senator. Did they vote? And have they all voted for this repeatedly? Different avenues to try to, because there's been, I'm pretty sure, 4 bills. They've tried to chip away at the open records request thing.
And for McCreary County, that would be
Upchurch.
and
What's his name?
Stivers.
Upchurch and Stivers. And that's Pulaski County, too.
Probably so. For a lot of counties.
For a lot of counties.
Yeah.
Part of Pulaski County. You people need to, this is dangerous. These records are your records. They're we the people's records. They're your records. You pay for these records. These are records that public officials, like Mayor Keck, like these cops, like the sheriff, they're made during the course of their business. You're paying their salary to make these records. They are public. Now, nobody's saying that really when an ongoing investigation's ongoing. Okay, you can't release like confidential source names or anything like that. And folks, I confronted Upchurch on this once before. And it's like, well, no, we're just trying to limit social security numbers and dates of birth. Okay, well, this is my BS meter on this. Bull crap, okay? I have never asked for or received a social security number or a date of birth, okay, when I've done open records requests. I've gotten tons of KSP records, and they know how to redact stuff. Okay, in fact, sometimes they over-redact, and then you have to fight and go through the Attorney General's office. But that's just, they're coming up with one excuse after another to try to chip away at you, me, people like me, or you getting your records. These are the public records. Your taxpayer money pays for them. They should be public. If this keeps going, and they're able to keep wheedling away at this, okay, then we're not going to be able to expose any waste, fraud, abuse, corruption. We're not going to be able to expose the next Mayor Keck that comes along that tries to poison everybody. We're not going to be able to expose, the next sheriff that comes along in this county or another county and is hiding evidence or hiding missing evidence or money out of the evidence room, which both happen in Pulaski County. We're not going to be able to expose this. You're not going to know about it. And to me, that is the cornerstone of our democracy, is, investigative journalists like me, like Crimes with Bobby, kudos to Bobby, like Elizabeth over there, Hillbilly News. These people are doing a great job exposing what's going on. You would not know about the behind-the-scenes stories. You wouldn't know about this stuff if it wasn't for these people literally walking out on a limb, too, and putting themselves in danger at times, exposing this stuff. Because guess what? Public officials don't like being exposed. They don't. Cops don't like being exposed when they're being corrupt. Oh, well, too bad. This is how we do it. This is, and I have never burned a confidential source, ever. And everybody knows that. That's why I get confidential sources, okay? They come to me, they bring me documents. This is how I build a wall away from my confidential sources. I don't have to expose them because I go through the open records request and I get this information separate. I don't have to expose them then. I keep them safe. This is so important. This is the cornerstone of the First Amendment. You know, the right to free speech, the right to our public documents. It's written into the Constitution. For those of you who carry around your Constitution and everything, Article 1, it was so important, it's written in Article 1. The first article in the Constitution. Read it. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question because, you know, my experience for 30 years working on the Hill, who brought this legislation before the Senate and the House? Some lobby
one?
group has had to bring this. Most politicians do not write these bills. Most of these bills, most of this writing is done by a lobby group or, you know, somebody has some influence. So apparently, you know, I don't know what association wrote this,
I think the
who
one,
lobbied for it, who went to these senators and these representatives, these state senators and state representatives, and lobbied this language into being.
well, it depends on which bill. The one previous that got kind of overruled was the Fish and Wildlife, State Fish and Wildlife. So they brought
Who
it.
pushed this one?
I think it was the cops. It was, you know, I'm not sure.
Internal Order, police, something like that?
No, it wasn't the FOP. I can't remember what it was. Somebody look that up and send it to
That's
us.
what you gotta go back to the source.
Yeah.
Because I would guarantee you, these politicians are not sitting around and having a great thought one day and decided to do this, and then they had another great thought and they started writing this
No.
out. This is part of a lobby effort that some group has done.
And follow the money. You can bet
That's another
the
one.
politicians pushing for this stuff, look at then who's donating to their political campaigns. Follow the money. And that's the other thing they don't want exposed. Okay? Right now, bribery is legal. Okay? It didn't used to be that way. We used to have laws against these conflicts of interest. Okay? Well, now, you know, any congressman, senator, state, or federal can be bribed. I mean, you can donate, and then if I donate a bunch of money to your campaign, me and 50 of my friends through these, you know, these, what are they called, these groups, then guess what? You're going to pass my bill. So,
And that's important. I mean, you know, for having good government, you got to have good citizens. And good citizens are involved and they're following what's going on. You know, I used to have this training program like Who Owns Your Daddy? Basically, who owns your congressman?
right.
Go look it up. It's online. Both your state representatives and your federal congressman and senator, your state representative and senator, the lobby groups, the lobby money that comes to those folks is posted. I mean, it's not a secret. It's a secret. I mean, they're not going to post it out there, but you can look it up. You can see what organizations is putting the money behind. A, the party. B, you know, the representative.
Right.
And if you don't think money doesn't speak, you know, you're definitely missing the point these days, because it does speak. That and votes.
Can you mention any sites that people can go to find this information?
Yeah.
Truth.org.
Truth.org is one. Also, the Kentucky Secretary of State, and also the Kentucky Election Commission. The Kentucky Election Commission posts a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, you can just do a Google search and it's going to come up and it's going to show you definitely who is sponsoring your elected official. So there's two things that control them. One is money and one is votes. And as far as open records, it's the same thing as, you know, open meetings. Once you start chipping away at, you know, finding out what your representative, whether it's local or nationally, is doing, then, you know, you're more and more in the dark. So, you know, keeping this open, and it's called the Sunshine Law for a reason. You know, so let the sun shine in on what's going on. That's why your courts can't, you know, your executive courts cannot have a session unless it's personnel that they can close. You know, you can sit in there, you can watch it on TV. You know, that's because of the Sunshine Laws. So it's very, very important that you citizens participate. This government only works at any level if you're participating, you're watching, you know what's going on with your representative, you know how they voted, you know who's sponsoring them, and most of all, you're talking to them. You're on that phone. You're knocking on that door. I always say, don't let your representative come to town, you know, wink at the prom queen, eat the chicken,
Give a
slap
speech
everybody
and
on
not
the back.
take questions,
Yeah,
which they're
and-
real good at in Kentucky. Okay,
Yeah.
showing up these things, and then you know you start trying to ask questions. Oh, we're not taking questions.
Yeah.
Beware of any state representative or state representative or state senator that comes to your county at election time and gives a speech and won't take questions while he's up there.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
That's actually red flag, folks. Red flag, and I'm telling you, they're notorious for that in Kentucky. Notorious. They don't want to. They don't want to take these questions.
And what's happening for a lot of the areas, like Darlene and some of the other folks are doing investigations. You know, local newspapers and the press used to be front and center on this. You know, ball scores are great. You know, all the hometown news is great. But, you know, newspapers, the journalists should be asking the questions. And they should be asking the tough questions. And I'm sure that you're going to find, like I like to focus on the ball scores in every paper. But I doubt if you could ever find out how your congressman voted. I guarantee you can't find out how your senator voted. You can't find out how your state representatives voted. And you can't find out what bills they voted on. Because the press is not doing the job that they should be doing. And as a citizen, you're just going to have to go out and dig that stuff up. And you're going to have to be aware. To be a good citizen, you know, you just have to get in there. And it never matters what a politician says. I mean, it matters how they vote. At the end of the day, disregard what they say, turn it back, go look at the voting record, go look at the bills that they have sponsored, go look at the bills they have signed on.
And then look at who is funding their campaign. Because I guarantee you 100% of the time you're going to see a correlation for how they voted on different things and who's funding their campaign. Okay? And it's bribery. It is. It used to be illegal. Now it's not. So,
and the second thing you need to look at on that is look at their vote by party. It doesn't matter. If they're voting 99.9% with the party, then they're not being your representative. They're just being a rubber stamp. Because I don't care who you are, you shouldn't be agreeing 99% of the time with your party. You know, you should be out there investigating, looking at the issues, talking to your people in your district and asking them, hey, this is going on, how do you want me to vote? So when you see, doesn't matter what party, when you see these very high percentages, and usually most of these sites will tell you what percentage of the vote is with the party and what percent of the vote is not with the party. But when you start to see these, you know, these rubber stamp politicians, they can't be listening to their people, their districts.
yeah, and there's a movement in Kentucky right now to lessen the EPA rules, the state EPA rules and stuff on PFAS. And, you know, we just fought that battle. And the federal EPA just fought that battle, and we won. I gave testimony for the third time before Congress, live testimony via Zoom, on what happened up there with the Mayor Keck and the water situation. And he's not the only one. This stuff's happening all across the state of Kentucky. I mean, the state of Kentucky, 2 years ago, after we exposed this stuff, came out with a warning. You can't eat the fish. Because they're loaded with PFAS, which is called forever chemicals. They're called forever chemicals for a reason. They're deadly. They're dangerous.
And today's politicians are in the best possible position they've ever been in because people are not asking. They are voting, they're taking legislation and moving it forward, they're taking money, and the voters back in their districts are not asking. They're not tracking. They're not confronting the politicians and say, hey, what's going on here? And they are just definitely having the best of all political times because accountability is becoming less and less and less.
And this is the way people like me, people like Crime with Bobby, people like Elizabeth, Hillbilly News, people like, our local, and our local paper does a pretty good job too. I got to commend our local paper does a pretty good job. This is our bread and butter. This is how we get you the truth. This is how we expose this cronyism, this corruption, this fraud. I would not be able to do what I do, nor would any good investigative journalist, if I didn't have this open records request, or at the federal level, what's called a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. Okay, so let me talk about another example why these laws are important, and you, the voters, you need to be calling the up churches and the senators and this airs all across the state of Kentucky, whoever your representative is, and screaming about this because it's just bullcrap, and it's anti-American is what it is. It's trying to limit your rights to your documents is what it is. In fact, they tried in the state of Kentucky to limit, and now they've already they passed that one a couple years ago, where if you're out of state, let's say you lived here your whole life, you moved to South Carolina. Okay, now you're a resident of South Carolina, but you need to get your Kentucky records. Good luck with that. Guess what? You're an out-of-state person. You don't have access to this anymore, which is just bull crap. That's just bull crap.
The thinking needs to change there. It's not the state's records. It's not the federal government's records.
It's your records.
It's your records. Now, they may be tending them. They may be housing them. But those are your records that you should have access to. And that's what these laws say.
Yeah.
So, keep that in mind. It's not like the state of Kentucky's records. No, these are public. The key word is public records. So anything that blocks your ability to get to your records, then, that's a problem.
The clock's down. I need that clock. I don't know why the clock. We have a clock behind Michael, and I have to count on that clock to watch my time. So the television people, sorry.
That's all right.
I gotta have that clock, man. Thank you, Michael, man.
But it is your records.
It is your records, and it's stored. You're paying for the storage of these records too. So it's your tax dollars. It's your records. You should have a right to them. And people, journalists like me, who investigate this stuff and expose it for you, or you wouldn't know about this stuff, we have to have this. And I'm just going to say this, and I've written it and I'll say it before. Any public official, any elected official who votes to limit transparency is hiding something. And I'm real comfortable saying that. If you're voting to limit transparency in all these bills, and you're a politician in Kentucky that keeps voting for these bills, you need to go. You, the taxpayer, you, the voter, need to get them out of there. Okay? And if you oh, well, I can't vote for a Democrat. Okay, well, guess what? Get somebody to run in a primary against them and make sure that they're promising you that they're going to stand by the open records request laws. Okay? Because they're hiding something. Why else would you want to limit transparency? You tell me. What kind of person would... We don't need less transparency in government. Oh, hell no. We need more transparency. We don't need this. We need more transparency. And any elected official trying to limit it, they're hiding something. They're afraid of something. And you need to be questioning that. And I question it all the time. And I say that. I every time I see these laws on different things. The League of Women Voters. Thank you, League of Women Voters. There's an organization in Kentucky called the League of Women Voters. It is not a left wing or right wing. It is, they are pushing this, to keep the open records request solid. Thank you for doing that. And I repost all their stuff. They're doing a great job out there. The League of Women Voters. Thank you for doing that. Now, on the federal level, and this is the sister or thing to it. Okay, I don't know if you guys have been watching these Kennedy hearings. This is on both Kennedys, the assassination hearings. Okay, the Trump administration ordered the release of these documents. Okay, we're talking 6 decades ago. This happened. What's called the Warren Commission. That's where they held hearings on these assassinations. They called, back 6 decades ago, it was back in the 60s, they called these CIA agents, because there was some evidence out there that maybe the CIA knew something, didn't know something. Now that these documents have been declassified, thank you, and that's one thing Donald Trump, thank you, is doing right for sure, is declassifying this stuff, because after being in the federal government for 20 years like I was, as a federal agent with a top secret clearance, I'm telling you, these agencies, especially the CIA, especially the FBI, especially the NSA, these agencies have become dangerous. They overclassify everything, they keep everything a secret, and they do that so they can cover up their shenanigans. Proof of that we now have. Now that these documents are being released, and they did what's called a document dump, and I'll explain a document dump in here in a minute. They did a document dump because he ordered a bunch of documents. They didn't want you to see these documents, so if I dump 10,000 documents, it's going to be harder for you to find these 3, okay? Some great journalism out there found the documents, thank goodness, that were important. And what they found out is during the Warren Commission, these congressional hearings, CIA agents at least 3 of them lied through their freaking teeth to Congress. Now, all of that was kept hidden for 6 decades. Wouldn't it have been nice if the FOIA regulations made it to where they couldn't have kept that secret, okay? And we would have known about that. Perhaps these CIA agents could have been indicted on lying and for covering up. And the question is, what were they covering up for? This is why, because I know a lot of people are following this. I'm following. I'm fascinated as all get out, these hearings, okay? This is why open records in your records and federal records, you should have access to those too. Is politicians and cops cover stuff up. Sorry, but they do. Not everybody's a good politician. Not everybody's a good cop. I still believe that most people are honest. I'm one of these, look, the thing's half full. And I believe that, more than half full. I believe that most cops are honest. I believe that most judges are honest. I believe that most politicians, believe it or not, they've got a good heart and they're trying, okay? Too many of them are not. And this is how they cover stuff up. They deny you access to records that will expose what they're doing. This is so important, folks. It just really is. For folks in McCreary County, you know, if I didn't have access to this, to the open records request, Mike Cash would still be your superintendent. Now, for those of you who follow, you know, what he did and got away with for a long time, till Truth or Politics started digging. I mean, it was appalling, absolutely appalling, what he got away with for so long. Aaron Anderson, same thing. Now he's indicted, you know, on all kinds of, you know, charges, felony charges. He's basically, you know, on pedophile charges. Okay, these two terrorized our school district over there. Okay, and one of their board members terrorized that whole school district for years. They would still be there, I'm willing to bet, if I didn't have this, if I didn't have access to this and be able to expose what we exposed, which was a lot. It was a lot. And for those new people, that we had a superintendent sending explicit pictures of adults and children over the school computers. Okay, and somehow he didn't get indicted. Okay, I still don't know that. He's gone. Then he gets caught at a middle school during the school hours, you know, doing the nasty with a subordinate, okay, on film. I'm telling you, had we not had these laws, I could not have gotten access to this, and we would not have been able to expose this, amongst many other things, okay? We would not have been able to go to Pulaski County, expose evidence room, evidence going missing. I'm talking important evidence, not just money, not just what is $25,000, $30,000, somewhere in there gone out of an evidence room. We're talking this went on for 5 years. DNA evidence, bullets, you know, stuff that puts your butt in prison or can exonerate you. Evidence missing and the cover-up. This is what's so important too. It's not just the crimes that these politicians and these cops commit. What's even worse is the cover-up. This is why they don't want you to have access to these documents. I'm telling you, this is why these politicians and these law enforcement, you know, that don't want us to have access to this, that's the real reason. They don't want just you to find out that this happened. They don't want you to see that KSP covered it up. They don't want you to see that so-and-so covered it up. That's the juicy stuff that I can't get to, nor any other investigative journalist can get to, if they keep wheedling away at our open records request laws. And I'm begging you people out there, go online. All you got to do, Google, what your county you live in, who is my state rep, who's my state senator. It should come right up, doesn't it? It comes right up. And then Google a phone number. Call them and tell them, what are you people doing in Frankfurt? Stop it, okay? Because we'll find somebody to run against you, okay? For Democrats who say, oh, I can't vote for a Republican, then find a Democrat to run against them, okay? We need to get rid of these people who are real comfortable going after the open records request, because it's the only way we have, folks, of letting you people know, what's going on.
Your best politician is a scared politician.
Yeah.
If you have a politician that has to run for their office, I mean really has to run, that knows that a county is not in their pocket, they have to really get down there and represent that county and talk to those people, that's different than a politician who goes, hey, I don't have to worry about County X because they're going to vote for me no matter what I do or what I say. They're going to walk in there and hit that button. They're not going to ask me any questions. They're not going to look at my voting record. They're not going to look at anything I've done. They're just going to hit that button. But a politician that has to run, who has to get down there and explain to the people their position, that's what you really need. Every politician should be, you need to keep them on the edge at all times.
I totally agree.
Because once they get into a position where, hey, I mean, how many politicians come to our county and really have to campaign?
Almost none. And here's the thing. Here's the point he's making. The last 4 or 5 election cycles at the state, this is your Frankfurt, these are the people that make the laws. I'm talking legislatures. These are people who pass laws that really affect us here in Kentucky. That's your state representatives, your state senators. The last 4 or 5 election cycles, or more than that, over 93% of them get right back in there. So they're thinking, I got a blank check. I could weed away open records. I can hide evidence. I can read away an open records request. I can cover stuff up, and I don't have to answer questions because guess what? The voters are going to vote me back in no matter what I do. I got a blank check. That's the attitude.
And the higher that percentage is, the more arrogant they are.
And this is not a party thing.
No, it's not a party thing.
Look, there's Democrats that have been in there way too long too. There's Republicans that have been there. This is not a party thing. This is, you need to start taking a look at this. When a group of people that can make laws to affect you, make laws to where they can cover stuff up, when they feel so comfortable that they can wheedle away at the open records request, folks, we got a problem. We got a serious problem, and it's a problem with your rights. Your rights are being affected, and I can't state enough how important this is. It's important at the federal level. It's important at the state level, and and anybody who knows me knows that I am not a big Donald Trump person. Am I? I dogged him for 4 years, and I'm going to keep. We should dog all these politicians.
Every one of them.
Every one of them. It don't matter the party. You hold them accountable. One of the things he is doing right, okay, is he is declassifying these records that should never have been classified in the first place. This is how they cover stuff up. And we need to be supportive of that. I don't care what party you're from. And for you Democrats out there to just, folks, this is how accountability works. Forget what party you're from. When an elected official does something right, it's the carrot and stick thing. Tell them that, look, I'm a longtime Democrat, I didn't vote for you, but thank God you're doing this. You need to give them the carrot. You need to support them on certain things. Then give them the stick for whatever they're doing wrong. And it doesn't matter what party they're from. So that's not what's been happening in this country.
You got to be a good citizen. And good citizens,
there you go.
I mean, that's part, civics I don't think is being taught in school.
No, it's
because
not.
when I get into some discussions sometime, I'm amazed at the lack of knowledge, the average
I am
voter,
too.
how the Constitution works, how the powers work. Totally void. You ask them the UK scores, they can give you that all day long. But, you've got to be a good citizen. And being good citizens mean you hold your elected officials accountable. You know what they're voting on, you know how they voted on, and you confront them. You either confront them at meetings, you send them emails, they keep track of that. I mean, I've sat in congressional offices on issues, there'll be a young staffer sitting there, and they'll have paper with a line down it, yes or no, and they're making tick marks on phone calls. At the end of the day, they'll say, we got 500 calls saying yes, 100 calls saying no. They keep track of it. But do not let a politician, any party become comfortable that they have you in their pocket, because that's bad government. And that's bad for you as a citizen. Don't ever do that.
I totally agree. Couldn't agree more. And this is not partisan, okay? It is not. This is just so
Being
important.
a good citizen is what
It's
it is.
being a good citizen. It is. I guess that's the best way to say it. These open records requests, this open records law, and open meetings law.
Yes,
okay,
sunshine.
Sunshine law. This is what I want to make a prediction. They keep getting away with this. That's what's next. They're going to change the open meetings law to where, when the state legislature meets, they don't have to tell you what they're meeting about. They can hide it. Okay? I'm telling you, this is dangerous. This is a danger to democracy when our elected officials try to pass laws to limit transparency and to chip away from the laws that make everything transparent, that give us access to these records. I don't know how to emphasize it any more. For 14 years, we have exposed, I've lost track of everything we've exposed on this show. It's just been amazing. I mean, not just here, Pulaski County, other counties. We would not have been able to do what I have done on this show. Not just me. I mean, I got help. I may be the quarterback of this team, but believe me, there's people I've got stashed everywhere feeding me information. I wouldn't be able to verify that information and keep them safe, my confidential sources, if I couldn't go then and get these records. I couldn't do this. I'm telling you, Truth or Politics and other shows like Truth or Politics, we're going to be over. We're going to be done for because we won't be able to access these records. So if you like what we have done here for 14 years, if you like what Hillbilly News, what they're doing over there, which is amazing work, kudos to that girl over there. She's amazing. Kudos to Crime with Bobby. If you like what these people are doing, and you want to keep it up, and you want to expose waste, fraud, abuse, corruption, cronyism, anything in the state of Kentucky, we got to have this. Get a hold of your state, figure out who it is, and whatever county you're at, call them. Raise Hades with them and just say, quit. I want you to leave alone the KRS statutes for open records and open meetings laws. And if you don't, me and my buddies, we're going to back somebody against you. It's just that simple. Because it's that important.
And just be a good citizen. Know how they're voting on everything.
Yeah.
Know who's supporting them. Know where the money's coming from. That's just part of being a really good citizen. Because they're affecting the records now, and you say, well, gee, that doesn't affect me. It may affect you.
Yeah.
It can really affect you. If they chip this piece off the block, what's the next piece that's coming off the block? If they got this much, how much more are they going to try the next time? So, you are the go and you are the stop. You are the voter. It's up to you. You've got to practice good citizenship.
This does affect you. Look at the Lake Cumberland thing. You think that doesn't affect everybody downriver all the way to Nashville? What, God knows what they brought in and ran through that defective wastewater treatment plant into Lake Cumberland and down to the Cumberland River? That affected a lot of people. I'm telling you folks, you would know nothing about that had I not had access to the open records request. Real quick.
One of the ways that I found the sites was simply to Google how they voted.
Oh, how they voted.
Yeah, and it'll bring you right to the sites to search that.
Okay, do you hear what he said? He said Google how they voted. Okay, find out who your rep is, because we got people all over the state of Kentucky watching this show, and then how they voted. Folks, we need your help on this. I'm asking you, if you like this show, if you want to continue, we need your help on this.
And do it at the national level too.
For you.
Not just state level, but do the national level. Be a good citizen, know what's going on, and hold them accountable, good and bad.
Very well said. And this is not partisan. I don't care who's in there. I don't care if they're a donkey or an elephant. It don't matter. You got to hold these people accountable.
Don't take the word. Look at the record.
Right.
Look at what the voting record is.
Folks, we are just about out of time. And one more time I want to hit. And thank you, Larry, for coming on again. You're invited any time. First, we want to thank MBR TV, Steve Hall, Michael Mann, everybody behind the scene.
Michael.
that makes Truth or Politics happen. Thank you so much. Thank you to our new viewers. Thank you for everybody that stuck with us all these years, for 14 years. We appreciate it. And don't forget, Motors on Main Street, May 2nd. They're going to have all kinds of cool old cars, new cars, whatever kind of cars, if you're into cars. Going to have live music, a DJ, a lot of vendors. It'll be a good time. You guys come out. Everything's free except for what the vendors will be selling. So come on out. We'll have a good time. And we will see you next time on Truth or Politics. Thanks.